So, this town does have a hot spring, right? My muscles have been aching for days, and my equipment isn't getting any lighter.
Everyone who talks about this place mentions the hot spring. There's no way they don't have one here. Besides, sis, what are you complaining about? We took a carriage all the way here.
True. But we'll still need a place to keep our belongings. As important as it is, I don't plan on wearing my armor into a hot spring.
Are you sure? They might get us in for free if the owner's into paladins.
Funny. But we'd have better luck using magic for a discount. A business in a place this popular doesn't stay open by not charging customers. Speaking of which, let's find an inn to stay at with more than one bed. I don't care if you get cold. We're not trying to survive a blizzard. Plus, we're not exactly strapped for cash after our last quest. So a little extra space isn't a big deal.
Fine, but if we're going to splurge, let's pick a place nearby a tavern. I hear the meat in this region is some of the best in the kingdom, and I've been dying to try it.
Is that the real reason you wanted to vacation here?
Among other things, but that was what initially caught my interest. Anyway, this looks like a good place. Entrance is nice and clean, and it's a stone's throw away from a few places to get breakfast.
Hello. We'd like to rent a room with 2 beds, please. We'll be staying for a few nights.
Like, completely sold out. Guess we'll have to find another inn. I guess that's to be expected in a place this popular. Come on, sis. Oh, hi there. Can we help you with something? Yeah, that's us. I'm surprised that word of our last quest traveled so quickly. But I suppose being twins and carrying swords probably makes us stick out. Oh, that must mean you work in the capital. That's a relief. Hopefully that means we won't have to spend our vacation getting recognized everywhere we go.
I'd probably pull my hair out if I had to deal with that. You know, now that I think about it, what are you doing all the way out here? The capital has to be at least 3 days' travel from here. Then here's some advice for you. Your employers probably won't know if you take an extra day or two to enjoy yourself. So have a little fun. It's what everyone else is here for. Now, if you'll excuse us, we need to find an inn to stay at. You're kidding. Are you positive? You checked all of them? This place at the last one? Great. So much for finding a room. It's not even a vacation if we have to find a barn to sleep in.
Wait, didn't you say you had to get the luxury suite? You must have had a ton of extra space that you're not using. If it isn't too much to ask, would you possibly be willing to spare the extra space for the twin heroes?
Sis, we can figure something out. Oh. Well, if you're alright with it, then I'm certainly not going to argue. After all, it certainly beats sleeping on the ground, outside, or in a barn.
I guess the paladin armor did get us in here for free. Just not the place we thought. Not to mention, aiding a cleric in their time of need will shortly bring you good fortune. Like, for example, having two beautiful adventurers as roommates.
Sorry about my sister. She doesn't have a good filter. But I'd feel bad taking advantage of your offer. If you'd like, we can split the cost of the room. Well, I suppose that's alright. But only because you aren't the one paying for it to begin with. Still, let us know if there's anything we can do to repay you. We've slain dragons before. I think carrying some equipment is the least we can do. And speaking of carrying things, do you think we could see the room now to put down our equipment? Finally, I get to change out of this armor.
Wow. The name Luxury Suite wasn't a joke. This place could easily fit 8 people, let alone the 3 of us. And that view. We can see all the way to the ocean from here.
Not to mention this bathroom is huge. It's practically a miniature bathhouse. What kind of work are you doing that gives you a budget like this?
Really? Who knew field research could be so dangerous? But I guess if you're journeying all over the place, eventually you'll run into the need for a weapon. Speaking of which, what kind of weapon do you carry? Really? But this thing is just made out of wood. It might hurt to get hit by, but I can't imagine it's good at fending off danger. You're friends with a druid. So this sword is magic then. Clever. It's most definitely more discreet than a metal blade, and it can still be used to protect yourself.
I can think of a few times when something like that would have been very useful. Although it's not as intimidating as a metal sword. Sometimes, that's all you need to scare off would-be thugs. More often than you'd think. Most people don't want to be on the receiving end of a long sword. And that's with armor on. So most thugs who just want to take your gold will think twice when they see a sword on your hip. Now, if only monsters worked the same way, then our lives would be a lot easier.
Well, yes, but even when you can talk to them, they aren't exactly polite. Trying to ask nicely rarely gets solutions in this line of work, and even mundane quests can sometimes get dangerous. So it's always better to have a weapon and not need it. Or maybe that's just the kind of thing that we tend to run into. Now, before we get too settled in, can you tell us about this equipment we're helping you with? So it's only meant to catch and bottle up one slime. Must be one valuable slime to go through all this trouble for it. So, does this need to get done right away, or can it wait until after lunch? Because I haven't eaten all day, and it's starting to give me a headache. Well, since it isn't raining outside, I take it that means we don't have to move this stuff today?
So, if it needs to be raining, was your plan just to come here and hope that it rains sooner rather than later? I guess it's a good thing you bumped into us. Otherwise, you would have been stuck here without anyone to pass the time with. After all, traveling alone gets incredibly boring after a while. That's true, but it's a bit different for us, since we always have each other for company. There's always someone to talk to, and we always have the reassurance of knowing somebody's got our back. Yes, but even we need a break from the adventuring life, which is how we've ended up here.
By the way, did the innkeeper give you extra keys for this room? You would think they would have at least one spare. Oh, great. Well then, if we don't want to get locked away from our belongings, we'll have to stick together. Luckily for you, that means you're going to have plenty of time to get to know us before we go slime catching. Now, let's get something to eat. I've been looking forward to trying the food here all day. You had me at seafood. Let's get going right away.
When I ordered the crab leg platter, I was picturing 2 or 3 legs with some potatoes or rice, but I'm not even sure I can finish this many crab legs. It almost seems a bit wasteful. I guess if we're going to be here for a while, it gives us a good chance to talk. So since you know about us already, have you heard about any of our adventures? That one wasn't all that interesting. We only took care of those ogres because we were in the area. Not to mention, it only got celebrated because of the trade road they were blocking. Have you heard any of our actually impressive achievements?
Yeah, that was a wild one. Who would have thought the priest was the one making all those undead? Luckily, being a cleric makes it quite easy to spot a practicing necromancer. Who knows what would have happened to the town if we hadn't shown up when we did. But enough about us. I'm sure you have quite a few exciting stories to tell. Oh, come on. What about the druid that gave you that sword? It's gotta be worth telling. It's not like they hand out magic swords to anyone who asks. And they carved it from a world tree. I almost can't believe it. I mean, I've never even seen a world tree, but you have a sword made out of one.
Trust me, that's a big deal. Unless I'm mistaken, there hasn't been a world tree in the material plane for centuries. Where was such a thing even located? First, it was a piece of the world tree. Now you were visiting the Feywild just to help this druid? Seems like you were selling yourself a bit short before. That's alright. There are worse things in this world than being humble. So have you fought any great beasts, or has that sword just been for show? I can imagine you took the druid's word for it, and just trusted that it could be used in a fight. Well, it doesn't have to be some beast of legend. Fending off some well-coordinated goblins can be impressive. Just depends on how many there were.
Even with a powerful druid's help, 30 goblins is nothing to sneeze at. They aren't very graceful creatures, but when they coordinate attacks as groups, they're dangerous, even for the most experienced fighters. Does anyone else at your job do what you do? Because this sounds less like a research item and more like an adventurer's guild. And if that's the case, you should probably renegotiate your pay if you're risking your life for them. Oh, well, by now they're most definitely aware that the kind of work they have you doing is for seasoned adventurers. They just don't need to hire them because you can handle it for them.
It is a big deal. You should be proud of your accomplishments. Just like us, you've earned a vacation. And it's even better for you, since your employers are paying for it. By the way, you mentioned you had visited here before. Once we're done with our meals, how about you show us the best place to visit? Usually all we do is shop for supplies in between quests. So, I really don't know what to do with myself when I'm not traveling or preparing for another adventure. Sounds like fun. But let's make sure we aren't just going to restaurants and taverns for the entire trip. A toast to relaxing. Our much earned downtime.